Right at the beginning of this story, something feels different, something unexpected, and that is exactly what makes it so interesting. When people think about a massive purchase like a Bugatti Veyron, they imagine big dealers, luxury showrooms, or professional brokers handling every detail. But in this case, the story takes a completely different turn. The person who made this deal possible was not a car dealer, not a businessman in the automotive world, but someone much more unexpected. It all started when Matt Armstrong, a well-known YouTuber famous for rebuilding crashed supercars, revealed that the man behind his Veyron purchase was actually his tattoo artist, Jordan from Skinworks. This small detail changed everything because it showed that this was not just a simple car purchase. It was a story about trust, relationships, and timing. From the outside, it looked like Matt just found a broken Bugatti, bought it, and fixed it in his usual style. But behind the scenes, there was a long process, a chain of events, and a lot of effort that most people never saw. Jordan was not just someone who passed along a message. He became the key connection, the bridge between a rare opportunity and the person who could actually make it happen. The moment Matt publicly thanked Jordan, it opened the door to a deeper story, one that many people in the automotive world did not even know existed. It made fans realize that sometimes the biggest opportunities do not come from big companies or official channels, but from personal connections and trust built over time. This also made people curious because if a tattoo artist could be involved in such a massive deal, what else happens behind the scenes in these high-value purchases? That curiosity is what makes this story so powerful. It is not just about a Bugatti Veyron. It is about how one simple message, sent at the right time, can completely change the direction of something big. And as we go deeper into the story, it becomes clear that without Jordan, this entire deal might have never happened at all. To really understand how important Jordan's role was, we need to go back to the very beginning of the deal and look at how everything started. At some point, someone who had knowledge about a repossessed Bugatti Veyron decided to reach out, but instead of contacting a big dealership or going directly to a known buyer, they contacted Jordan. This alone shows that Jordan was already someone trusted, someone connected, and someone who knew the right people. When Jordan received this information, he immediately thought of Matt Armstrong. This decision was not random. Jordan knew Matt's work. He knew Matt's ability to rebuild damaged cars, and he understood that Matt was always looking for the next big project. This is where things started to become serious, because from that moment, Jordan was no longer just passing along information. He became actively involved in making the deal happen. Before Matt even knew about the car, Jordan was already communicating, asking questions, and understanding the situation. He became the middleman, handling the first stage of the process, which is often the most important part. Many deals fail at this early stage because of lack of communication or trust, but in this case, Jordan kept everything moving forward. Once Matt became aware of the opportunity, the process had already started, and that gave him a huge advantage. Instead of starting from zero, he stepped into a situation where the groundwork was already being handled. This shows how important timing and preparation can be in high-value deals like this. It also shows that opportunities do not wait. If Jordan had ignored the message or delayed his response, someone else could have taken the car, and the entire story would have been different. This moment highlights a key lesson, which is that success is not always about being in the right place, but about recognizing the right opportunity at the right time and acting on it quickly. Jordan did exactly that, and because of his quick thinking and action, the process moved forward instead of stopping before it even began. As the deal started to take shape, things became more complicated, and this is where Jordan's role became even more important. This was not a simple purchase where someone walks into a showroom, pays money, and drives away. This was a repossessed Bugatti Veyron, a car that could not even drive, a car that had problems, and a car that required careful handling. The negotiation process alone took weeks, not days, and during this time, Jordan was the person managing communication between all parties involved. He had to deal with the repossession company, pass information to Matt, and make sure that everything stayed clear and organized. This kind of role requires patience, trust, and attention to detail because one mistake, one misunderstanding, or one delay could cause the deal to fall apart. Repossession companies usually want to sell quickly because they want to recover money, so they do not wait around for too long. This creates pressure, and that pressure was on Jordan to keep things moving while also making sure Matt did not rush into a bad deal. Price negotiations were another challenge because the company would not reveal their lowest acceptable price. This meant that offers had to be made carefully, without knowing exactly where the limit was. If the offer was too low, they might move on to another buyer. If it was too high, Matt could end up overpaying for a damaged car. Finding the right balance in this situation is not easy, and it shows that Jordan was not just passing messages. He was actively involved in shaping the deal. On top of that, there were logistics to consider. The car needed to be transported, which costs money and requires planning. All of this had to be discussed and arranged before the purchase was completed. While Matt was busy working on another project in a different country, Jordan handled these responsibilities, making sure that everything was ready when the time came. This level of involvement shows that Jordan was fully committed to making the deal happen, even though it was not his main profession. What makes the story even more interesting is the relationship between Jordan and Matt, because this is not a business partnership in traditional sense. Jordan is Matt's tattoo artist, someone who works with him in a completely different way, outside of cars and business deals. This personal connection is what made everything possible. When someone contacted Jordan about the Veyron, they did so because they trusted him, and when Jordan thought of Matt, he did so because he trusted Matt. This chain of trust is what allowed the opportunity to move from one person to another without breaking. In many cases, deals like this require contracts, agreements, and official channels. But here, it was built on personal relationships. This shows that in some situations, who you know and how much they trust you can be more important than formal qualifications. Jordan knew that Matt had the skills, the audience, and the resources to take on a project like this. Matt, on the other hand, trusted Jordan enough to rely on his information and communication, even when he could not inspect the car himself in detail. This level of trust is not built overnight. It comes from time, experience, and consistent interactions. The fact that Matt publicly thanked Jordan also shows how important he believed this contribution was. It was not just a small favor. It was something that played a major role in making the entire deal possible. This also highlights a bigger idea, which is that success is often a team effort, even when it looks like an individual achievement from the outside. People see Matt buying and fixing a Bugatti, but they do not always see the people behind the scenes who help make that moment possible. Jordan represents those hidden contributors, the ones who do not always get attention but play a critical role in big outcomes. As the negotiations continued, the pressure around the deal started to increase, and this is where the situation became even more intense. Buying a repossessed car is already risky, but buying a broken Bugatti Veyron takes that risk to a completely different level. There were many unknowns, and every unknown meant potential problems later. Jordan had to make sure that the information being passed to Matt was as clear and accurate as possible, even though he himself was relying on what the repossession company was providing. This created a situation where trust became the most important factor. Matt was not physically present for most of the early process, which meant he had to depend on secondhand information when making one of the biggest decisions of his career. At the same time, the sellers were likely dealing with multiple interested buyers, which meant that delays could cost him the deal. This created a race against time. Jordan had to keep communication active, respond quickly, and make sure that nothing slowed down the process. There's also the emotional side of the situation. When you're dealing with a car like a Bugatti, the excitement can push people to act quickly, sometimes too quickly. But in this case, the balance between excitement and caution had to be maintained. Jordan played a key role in keeping that balance. He did not just push the deal forward blindly. He helped manage the flow of information so that Matt could make a smart decision. This shows that even though Jordan was not a professional car broker, he handled the situation with a level of care and responsibility that matched the importance of the deal. The fact that the process took weeks shows that this was not rushed, and every step was carefully handled. It also shows how close the deal might have come to failing, because in a fast-moving market, taking weeks can be risky. But in this case, patience and persistence worked together, and Jordan stayed consistent throughout the process. Making sure that the opportunity did not slip away. One of the most challenging parts of this entire situation was the fact that Matt could not fully inspect the car in person before making the final decision. This is something that would make most buyers uncomfortable, especially when dealing with such an expensive and complex machine. A Bugatti Veyron is not a normal car. It is highly engineered, extremely expensive to repair, and even small issues can lead to massive costs. In this case, Matt only had a very limited window for inspection, which means that most of his decision was based on the information Jordan provided and what the sellers shared. This adds another layer of pressure to the deal, because any missing detail could turn into a big problem later. Jordan had to make sure that all available details were communicated properly, from the condition of the car to any known issues. At the same time, he had to deal with the reality that not everything could be known before purchase. This is where trust between Matt and Jordan became critical again. Matt trusted that Jordan was doing everything possible to get the right information, and Jordan took that responsibility seriously. This situation also shows how experienced Matt had become over time. He was willing to take a calculated risk, knowing that even if the car had problems, he had the skills and resources to deal with them. But without Jordan's involvement, even this calculated risk might not have been possible, because the opportunity might never have reached Matt in the first place. This part of the story highlights how important communication is in deals like this. It is not just about having information, but about sharing it clearly and at the right time. Jordan acted as a link that kept everything connected, making sure that despite the distance and limited access, the deal could still move forward in a controlled and organized way. Another important aspect of the story is the complexity of logistics, which many people often ignore when thinking about car purchases. In this case, the Bugatti Veyron was not in a condition where it could simply be driven away. It needed to be transported, and transporting a car like this is not simple or cheap. It requires planning, coordination, and additional costs that need to be considered before the deal is finalized. Jordan was involved in these discussions as well, helping make sure that everything was arranged properly. This included understanding where the car was located, how it would be moved, and how quickly this could be done. Timing is very important in situations like this, because delays in transport can create additional costs or even risk losing the deal if the sellers decide to move on. At the same time, Matt was in another country, working on a completely different project, which made things even more complicated. This meant that Jordan had to take on even more responsibility, handling things on the ground while keeping Matt updated. This level of involvement shows that Jordan was not just helping casually. He was deeply involved in every stage of the process. It also shows how deals like this are not just about money, but about coordination and execution. Even if the price is agreed, the deal is not complete until everything else is in place. Jordan helped manage these details, making sure that when the time came to finalize the purchase, there were no major obstacles left. This kind of behind-the-scenes work is often invisible to the audience, but it is essential for making everything come together smoothly. Without proper logistics, even the best deals can fall apart, and in this case, Jordan's efforts helped prevent that from happening as the deal finally came together. It became clear that this was not just a lucky situation, but the result of multiple factors working perfectly at the right time. Jordan's quick response, his connection to both sides, his ability to handle communication, and the trust between him and Matt all played a role in making the purchase possible. When Matt eventually revealed the car and shared the story, it surprised many people because they had no idea that someone outside the automotive industry was involved in such an important way. This made the story even more powerful because it broke the usual expectations. People expect big deals to happen through official channels, but this showed that sometimes opportunities come from unexpected places. Jordan's role also became more visible after Matt publicly thanked him, and this recognition helped people understand how important he was in the process. It also created a sense of appreciation, because viewers realized that without Jordan, they might never have seen this project at all. This moment also highlights how important it is to give credit where it is due. Matt did not keep the story to himself. He shared it with his audience, making sure that Jordan received recognition for his efforts. This kind of honesty builds trust with viewers and makes the story feel more real and relatable. It also shows that success is not just about individual talent, but about the people who support and contribute along the way. Jordan may not have been in front of the camera, but his impact was just as important as what happened in the garage later. This part of the story brings everything together and shows how different pieces connected to create something much bigger than anyone expected. After the deal was completed and the Bugatti Veyron finally became part of Matt's garage, the story did not end there. In fact, That is where a new phase of the story began, and this is the part most people are familiar with. The internet quickly focused on how Matt managed to diagnose and fix what seemed like a major problem with something as small and simple as a fuse. This moment went viral because it created a powerful contrast. On one side, you have one of the most advanced and expensive cars ever made, and on the other side, you have a fix that costs almost nothing. This made people question everything they thought they knew about high-end cars, maintenance costs, and complexity. But when you look deeper, you realize that this viral moment would not have happened at all without everything that came before it. The negotiations, the communication, the logistics, and the trust all led to this point. Jordan's role may not be visible in the repair process itself, but without him, the car would never have reached Matt in the first place. This shows how important the early stages of any big project are. People often celebrate the final result, but they forget about the steps that made that result possible. In this case, the viral repair became the highlight, but the hidden work behind the purchase is just as important. It also adds another layer to the story because it shows how different skills come together in a single project. Jordan handled the connection and negotiation side, while Matt handled the technical and creative side. Together, these efforts created something that captured the attention of millions of people. This combination of behind-the-scenes work and on-camera results is what makes stories like this so engaging and memorable for audiences. Another interesting part of the story is how it changed the way people look at connections and opportunities in general. Before this, many viewers believed that deals involving cars like a Bugatti Veyron only happen within a closed circle of wealthy collectors, dealers, and industry insiders. But this situation showed something different. It showed that opportunities can come from unexpected places, and that personal relationships can open doors that formal channels cannot. Jordan was not part of the traditional automotive world, yet he played a key role in one of the most talked-about car purchases online. This challenges the idea that you need to be in a specific industry to create or access big opportunities. Instead, it highlights the importance of trust, awareness, and action. Jordan recognized the opportunity and knew exactly who to connect it with. This ability to connect the right people at the right time is a powerful skill, and it is something that is often overlooked. Many people focus on technical skills or financial resources, but they forget about the value of relationships and communication. This story brings that value into focus. It shows that being reliable, being trusted, and being connected can lead to outcomes that seem impossible at first. It also inspires others to pay more attention to the connections they build in their own lives. You never know when a simple conversation or message might turn into something much bigger. In this case, a single message led to a multi-million-dollar car project that captured the attention of millions. That is the kind of impact that strong relationships can have when combined with the right timing and action. As more people learned about Jordan's involvement, it also created new opportunities for him personally, which is another important part of this story. When Matt publicly thanked him and encouraged his audience to support Jordan, it brought a lot of attention to his work. This is one of the unique aspects of working with someone who has a large online platform. A simple mention can bring thousands of people to your page, your business, or your services. For Jordan, this meant increased visibility and recognition, not just as a tattoo artist, but as someone who played a role in a high-profile deal. This kind of exposure can open new doors, whether it is in business, collaborations, or even new areas that were not considered before. It also shows how helping others can sometimes lead to unexpected benefits. Jordan did not take on this role as a paid service or a business deal. He did it because of his connection with Matt and his willingness to help. In return,